So the subject is, how can central banks build a more inclusive fintech ecosystem? So on our panel today, we have a central bank, which is Central Bank of Uruguay. We have a network, should I call NETS? Network or a scheme, that's NETS. And we have a representation from Sanjib for the fintech ecosystem. And a common question to both of you all on the subject, which is, can central banks build an inclusive fintech ecosystem? So like, I might just go quickly one of all, you can tell me, can. Begin with Rossana, can.
Good afternoon for everybody. Yes, we think we can do it. It's just that, or
Yeah, that's it. A few words if you have any view on this, on the subject.
First of all, I would like to tell some of the characteristics of our country. We are a very small country of 3.4 million of population. We have a very concentrated banking system in few institutions. One of them have the 50% of the market share, and it's a public institution, and the other is integrated by 6 other private institutions. We have a high level of financial inclusion, and also we have a high level of collaboration between the institutions for fraud concerns and cybersecurity. We also have implemented last year the fast payment system in the first stage of person-to-person instant transfers, and we are going to implement next month the payments with QR code. And we also have a roadmap for open finance. We are in a very early stage of development for the fintech ecosystem. And we think we have a leading role for the development, for the building of this financial ecosystem, as we see this from 2 different points of view. In one hand, we have the agents that have a new business model, have a new technology they want to access to the market, they want to implement, and we as a central bank have to assess them in the regulation, have to assure the accessibility to the market, and have to promote competitive in the market too. So that's one point of view, and the other point of view is from the side of the user of the financial system, that we think that they have the right to have an efficient system and a secure system, and innovation in the financial system, better services, better experience of the user. And we also think that the fintech industry could improve the inclusion, the financial inclusion, achieving that persons that they don't reach the traditional banking system, they could be able to work in the financial system through the fintechs.
Thank you, and I think we should look forward for that open finance framework. That's very interesting. Lawrence, what are your views on this?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Sorry. Yes, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Lawrence Chan. I'm the Group CEO of NETS Group in Singapore. NETS is the domestic scheme and also the operator for the clearinghouse for all payment infrastructure in Singapore. So to answer your question, the simple answer is yes. Yes, we do believe that the central bank has a big role to play. And I think the way we do it in Singapore, and I'm not saying it's the right way, but the way we do it in Singapore that helps to promote this is we try to not make it us versus them or them versus us. It's not a bank versus non-bank, right? Fintech is financial technology The incumbents can do financial technology. New entrants can do financial technology. It's tried to be done together. If I can give two examples of this, one example is through the influence of the central bank, we call them the Monetary Authority of Singapore, we have the Singapore Fintech Association, which I've had the privilege of introducing Sanjib to when he was last in Singapore for the equivalent of the Fintech Festival in Singapore. And that is, we as NETS, I'm on the payment subcommittee of the Singapore Fintech Association, where we work and engage with all the fintechs. We also have the Singapore Clearinghouse Association. Singapore Clearinghouse Association is the scheme owner for all the major clearing payment products services in Singapore, from the traditional checks to the latest fast payments, is determined by the Singapore Clearinghouse Association. Singapore Clearinghouse Association is made up of banks and fintechs. So again, trying to be inclusive of, it's not us against them, it's not them against us, it's trying to be inclusive to better the end consumer. So short answer, yes, I do believe it can be done. Again, Singapore is not the right way, but we are trying to do it this way.
Thank you. Thank you, Lawrence. Sanjeev?
Yeah, from my perspective, I support the thesis. Central bank the support of the central bank has been very critical in building, this digital payment ecosystem, particularly when the inclusive, to the last mile. For example, just this week, the news came out from India on that ULI. I mean, the unified lending interface that's awesome, reaching out to the last mile. And if you think without the support of RBI, it would not have been possible at all. The same goes for the UPI, as a universe that is rocking the globally, kind of the product is scalable, agile, getting to the last mile, that kind of the power that central bank can drive from the front. In my country as well, before the pandemic in Nepal, the digital payment was not scaling up as the way it was in India. But then the pandemic came, and that is a boon in disguise. And you know what? I think I would recall my governor, central bank governor, the present governor, Mr. Mahaprasad Adhikari, during the pandemic, he went to the, front line, to vegetable market, the Hart Bazaar, trying to promote the QR. I think he would be the only governor that went into the front line and trying to promote, and he took a huge risk. A governor, central bank, walking into the street, trying to promote the digital payment from the front means he is also, endorsing the risk that comes with the product. So it's like a huge challenge from that perspective, right? So I think, yes, Maria, without central bank, what we've seen, the kind of the central bank support to NPCI, that's awesome. And same in my country. So I think I would support the thesis, Maria. Over to you.
Yeah. Now I have some specific questions given the limitation of time. So that's to Lawrence. Lawrence, what are the two regulatory reforms that you believe has enabled the fintech ecosystem globally, either globally or maybe Singapore as a country?
I think at the global level, there has been a very conscious effort, and maybe I just use what the G20 has been doing to reduce cross-border payments, reduce costs for cross-border payments, right? So I believe it's below 3% they're looking at for cross-border payments, or even lower than that. I think that has motivated many central banks and players in the ecosystem to look at different ways in which cross-border payments can be made more cost-efficient. With that, we have done a few bilaterals in Singapore for account-to-account transfer. We've done a few bilaterals for QR scanning across Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, China, vice versa. The NETS QRs in Singapore can be scanned by those residents with wallets coming into Singapore, and vice versa, Singapore residents can scan their QRs. And we also have account transfer, where we have it with Singapore and India, where we can do, just knowing the mobile number, we can send money. So all this is done with I think being motivated by that understanding of how can we reduce costs, right? And I think this has been made possible because of really the sponsorship from G2G to central banks and then through operators like us that work with the industry to make it happen. And I think key to this is today, whether it's for India, Singapore, or the other corridors that we're involved in, it includes, again, both banks and non-banks, what we call fintechs generally, that can be the sender or the receiver, right? So I think at the global level, there are definitely initiatives. At the more local level, in addition to, I mentioned the setting up of different associations in Singapore, the passing of the Payment Services Act by Parliament in Singapore gives an opportunity for bank and non-bank FIs to be registered, to be licensed in Singapore to do fintech, right? So that again, I think supports the ecosystem to grow and to build.
So just a question, do you have a fintech regulation?
We have a regulation for payment companies.
Okay.
So whether you are like us, bank-owned, whether you are a bank, whether you are a non-bank, banks don't have to because they already have the banking license.
Right.
But payment companies would fall under the PS Act. Yeah.
Okay.
So in payments, definitely there is.
Okay, thank you. And Rossana, same question, but from the regulatory angle. Like central bank's perspective, with respect to regulatory challenges or concerns, with fintech that you envisage, what do you envisage maybe a challenge from central bank's perspective with fintechs?
Okay. In particular, with fintechs, our major concern now is to adapt our regulation to the new technologies, and our regulation is designed for an ecosystem without fintechs. So now we want to redefine the regulation to take into account a functional approach and get to know better the market, the technology, the phenomena, improve our skills, and that's why we have to work with the industry, because the innovation is happening and they know, they have the knowledge, and we have to create these spaces to work with them, to assist them in the control of risk, the cybersecurity aspects, all is a major concern for us, the fraud and cybersecurity aspects, and we want that they have this into account from the beginning, from the stage of the design of their business models and their technology. So the challenge is there in the perspective of our central bank, of how we regulate, taking all these aspects into account, and also how they consider the risks and how they consider the aspects of financial stability. That is our major purpose. And the other thing that challenges us is to actually achieve accessibility, to actually achieve efficiency in the system, and competitive because of the characteristics of our financial system with banking institutions concentrated and with barriers to the access. So we promote, we have to work with the agents, we have to achieve a cultural transformation and get them to realize the benefits of this transformation we want, including the fintech industry.
So I think your statement was very pro fintech. You're saying that you need fintechs, and I think the banks have to start embracing fintechs. Okay.
Yes,
They have to
because
start embracing
they
fintechs.
have services for
Yeah.
the society, for the population that banks are not interested in
Yeah.
give.
Thank you. Sanjib, to you, again, the same question which I asked Lawrence, what are the two major regulatory reforms that you believe has enabled fintech ecosystem? Maybe global example, or perhaps Nepal as your an example.
I mean, if you look at the the advent of how exponentially like this, particularly fintech has to some extent I feel is glamorized, right? Because of the payment part of it that is digitized, right? So I mean, as a career banker, I mean, I started with Stancy in early 90s. So from my perspective, like fintech is always there. Right? It's only that in the later stage that the payment is digitized, and that's what the glamour came in, right? So, and the regulator do not want it to stay away from that perspective, and with the push from the regulator, actually, if you look at, all these, the reforms, mainly the policy infra, the most of the proactive regulators, they started early on working on the policy infra. The act, as Lawrence rightly pointed out, in Nepal is no exception, where we had placed in all the policy acts that was a part of the Banking Act reform to accommodate entire payment system, right? So we have a full-fledged PSD, Payment System Department in my country, a separate Payment Act into the country. We have a national payment strategy into place. And right now, the Nepal as a country, central bank is working to have fintech strategy in place. Now, the evolving from fintech, the journey to the, from payment to the fintech as a journey. Because, and then digital lending, P2P lending, sandboxing, all these thoughts are already rolled out by my regulator into the country. CBDC, we are piloting 2026. One of the few countries in the world, so wholesale CBDC. So these are the key reforms. So I believe, it's great that, some of these central bank helping, the entire ecosystem of the fintech by, trying to catch up with the new trend. And with the advent of now generative AI and the disruption that is AI is bringing, so there's a new wave of reform would be required, particularly. And besides all this, what I have seen globally, the nation, for example, India could be one, perhaps Thailand is one that comes to my mind. The countries that working from the top level, political level on the DPI structure. So, I mean, the power of the DPI, if you look at it from the, three key components within the digital public infrastructure, from the CKYC to payment rail to debt exchange platform, and blend it together, right? And the kind of the power that it can generate, I think few countries, I think the trend would follow. The DPI as a strategic pillar to support the, because you can't stop the, the wave of digital economy fueled by the fintech and the digital payment automation, but eventually you'll have to, and the AI, right? So this is where I would see the global trends that I see. The AI would be one, the DPI is another right now, and then you throw in all your digital lending, like a unified lending interface into that, or maybe a digital marketplace, or even ONDC kind of stuff. Right, that's amazing. Another disruption that came from the, government. So why we needed all this is to make it agile, lightweight, asset light kind of stuff, reached out to the last mile. Right? So this is where I think, Maria, the trend
No,
is.
absolutely. I make up. I note the point of DPI and AI you spoke about, and I think then the next thing, perhaps, maybe we as India have scratched the surface on DPI piece. Other countries, maybe global south countries and all, they would be looking into DPI as a place where they can innovate and expand and bring in inclusivity. A question to you again, Lawrence, and that's, we understood that there's collaboration. You require fintechs, you require banks, we require central banks. We all have to be in harmony, has to exist. But between central bank and the fintech collaboration, can you tell me the focus area for a fintech with respect to technology and usage of data? If I take these two subjects.
By address and all the other data points, I can build a profile of whether they are parents with children, whether they own a car, whether they travel, whether they are studying in a tertiary institution. With these different buyer profiles, we can then help the merchant understand who are their customers, who are their buyers. And this is not rocket science. It's been done actually by a lot of the international schemes and mainly provided to the top handful of merchants in Singapore. But today, because we are also a domestic debit scheme and we have the scale, we can now provide this to the heartland merchants, what we call the Singapore brands, so that they too can have a better understanding of who their buyers are. So with this data that we are leveraging because of the payments on our whole ecosystem, we can then tell them who their buyers are, and they can then market better. They can decide if they want to open a shop in the next location, where's the next mall they should open relative to another mall. And with the data that we share with them can actually help them make such decisions. So these are the two examples I would use. But if you don't mind me going back to, I think, maybe the biggest of all examples. And the biggest of all examples where it's not necessarily data, but it involves fintechs and definitely involves technology, is what was started as bilateral cross-border, and now the concept of Project Nexus, where it's going to be multilateral, right? Where fintechs, banks can be a receiver or sender on behalf of their customer. Right? So this is, I think, really the next step of moving from bilateral to multilateral, where fintechs, central banks, who are really key to the formation of Project Nexus, India, Singapore being two of the 5 countries involved, really promoting efficient, safe, secure cross-border movement of funds.
Thank you, Lawrence. Just to ask you, do you have anything related to a privacy law regulation in Singapore? This is just off the records question.
Yeah, of course we do. Yes, we have PDPA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sanjib, to you, Rossana, to you. On the same point, central bank fintech collaboration, 2 subjects, which is transparency and, KYC, ML+. What's your view? How can fintech and central bank collaborate to address these 2 challenges or subjects of discussion?
Well, we think we have to talk the same language about that topic with fintech industry. They are also focused on the development of a better experience for the user, but maybe doesn't take into account that aspects of control of risk. So we have to work with them in the stages of the design. We have to create the spaces. We have to have an open dialogue to better understand also the technology they are using, the structure of the business model. We have to improve our skills and collaborate with them. And they have also to understand the standards, the regulation, really understand the justification of all that regulation, and work in the onboarding process, work with them to facilitate the information to the users, improve the financial literacy of the users of that models, the business models they are designing. So that's it's a collaboration space that we have to work together.
Okay, okay. Do you have regulations around transparency? Do you have, I don't know if Uruguay is developed up to that extent to get into these regulations. Have we? I know for a fact you're working on open finance, but you know,
Yes,
this
not
would be,
yet.
okay.
But we have financial innovation program.
Okay.
We have an innovation office and a node of innovation. And we facilitate working groups and try to. The innovation office is not a regulator.
Okay.
So it's part of a central bank, but it's not a regulator. We try to work with the industry. In the innovation node, we have representatives of the industry, we have law firms, consultancy, anyone that is interested in the financial system can be part of the innovation node, and they are becoming to trust in this space and in the role of the central bank. So they bring topics of interest, they are leading the working groups, and the central bank start to facilitate and not to lead. That is important for us. They are leading, they have outcomes, they have proposals of regulation and of business model designs. And so that is with the assistance of the central bank. So are viable proposals. And then it starts the process of regulation. No, it's a different place in the bank, but it's half of the way done.
Thank you. Thank you, Rossana. Sanjib, the same subject, but for you it's innovation and emergence of inclusive use cases. That's like with the collaboration.
Right.
So,
I mean, I'd like to share a live case that I witnessed just few months back at 4,000-meter altitude. If you know Nepal, we are geographically blessed. I feel my country is one of the most blessed and most beautiful and most magical country in the world, right? So I would encourage you to visit. So I was trekking. I'm a high altitude trekker. So I was trekking, into this place called Upper Mustang. It's like in another country within a country. If you have heard of Mustang, or Google the Upper Mustang and make your next bucket list. All right. So I started my journey from Kathmandu to Upper Mustang. To my delight, each and every payment from Kathmandu, the capital city, to 4,000-meter Upper Mustang was digital.
wow, that's good. That's really good.
We must celebrate this with the support of central bank and my fintech companies. The Nepali fintech companies, to be very honest, are the world class. Maybe some of them are sitting here. We export close to $500 million worth of software technology to the world. And out of this, large amount is of the fintech technologies. Nobody knows about this. Nepalese are only exporting the people or labor. No. We're transforming ourselves, recreating our identity, reinventing ourselves, and actually it is unofficially, it is about $1.5 billion worth of software and fintech technologies we are selling. The Nepalese fintech companies are rolling out the solution in Tanzania, in Ghana, in Cambodia, in Myanmar, in Bangladesh, in so many countries. Anyway. So, but a regulatory reform that you asked me would not have been possible before last year. Last year I was at Everest Base Camp, and before the advent of digital payment, how it was. All the trekker like me would go into this trekking route, pay in cash, and this trekking, say the hotels and the resort or whatever the tea houses would have to charter helicopter to bring the cash in, stored in a sack. Look at that. The technology, the enablement and the inclusion, to the last mile, so everything that has been made possible. Another aspect I really would like to do from the innovation, as we see the growth in the digital payment, we also face the challenge. That is mainly on the, you talked about data security side, but the cyber fraud has increased. So I think from the cyber fraud perspective, that is as we, we have to do collectively something both on the, the regulator, the community, the engagement, and all of that. I think, Maria, that is where I want to.
I like that thing of you carried cash for, helicopter. That was
Right.
like,
And the next
and now you're back to
exponential, no, I
digital.
think you're, okay. I mean, next exponential is the cross-border. Think about India and Nepal with a 1,400-kilometer long open border, and we have had this relationship in roti and beti for the ages, right, from the centuries. These two countries have the relationship in roti and beti, from the Mithilanchal to, like all the way to West Bengal. So now roti, beti, and bhugtan
Wow.
with the UPI. So next time, and also let me also play a brief commercial because I represent FinTech Alliance, so like to play a Bigyapan here, is the FinTrek. There's a FinTrek, if you are interested in September, October, we have a FinTrek to Annapurna. So anyone interested in trekking with a FinTech tribe, do contact me, or our president, I think he is here, our FinTech member in this room. So reach out to us. We'll take you to the heaven and bring you back in peace, not in a box. All right?
One last question to all three of you all. Last question, in the interest of time. It's a genie question, my favorite question. What is that one desire you have, you would like to witness in your space through this collaboration of fintech and central bank? One thing you look forward in 1 year, 2 years. Rossana, through you, start with you.
Well, the thing we really want to achieve is to get contagious from the dynamism, the agility that fintech have, in innovation, in development of technology. We want, as a central bank, to have the ability, the capacity to adapt with the same dynamism they have, and to get response, or even to get anticipated to what is going to happen in the market, as we are in an early stage of development. We have the entire world to see what is going to happen. So we need to see that in that space of collaboration. We need to see a team with with the skills, with the knowledge, with the dynamism to follow the innovation.
So you're looking for the rigor of fintech, rigor and enthusiasm of fintech. I make a note of it. Yes, Lawrence?
I'll use the word, the one word to answer your question, what is it I'm looking for? To me, the word is equilibrium. And let me explain why do I choose that word. Right? It needs to be done at the right level, this collaboration. So whenever there is a policy change, an infrastructure change that would benefit both banks and fintechs, that is led by the central bank. I have a saying that goes that a rising tide raises all ships, and everyone benefits. And it should be done. It definitely should be done, even though to be done effectively needs to be done at the right equilibrium, because we have to consider those who are in there before and those who are coming in to join. But all will benefit. And of course, who benefits more, who benefits less, what is the right equilibrium to drive that rising tide, right? And I think it's something that many central banks, I believe here as well, are very conscious of. Whenever there's a policy change or infrastructure change to benefit all, that correct equilibrium must always be maintained so that the whole industry moves forward.
Yeah, thank you, Lawrence. I think that's a word for the day for me, like equilibrium. It's beautifully put. I think we all should work towards it, right. Every country. Tell me, Sanjib.
Well, from my perspective, I think where you can bring central bank and fintech companies together is two words comes to my mind. First is, of course, considering my economy, all right, dignity. Second is the empowerment. But then how would collaboration between central bank and fintech companies would bring that dignity and empowerment? From my perspective is, a sachet size loan. If shampoo can come in a sachet, loan should come in a sachet size, so that I can bring dignity to these last mile people who does not have to go and ask for the loan or need money, like, to their loan sharks or to elsewhere. And the empowerment and the power that the technology can bring in rolling out this sachet-sized loan into, let's say, $5 or $10 and $20 as and when they need it at the place they want it, right? The kind of the empowerment and the dignity that we can offer this to the women's and the underprivileged and the underbanked and, like the last mile people would be just awesome. In absence of this platform, in absence of this technology, in absence of a regulatory regime, like, these people at the bottom lines are resorting to the loan sharks, like, compromising on their dignity and the self-respect and, like, feeling, humiliated and, kind of stuff. So I think that is the power of central bank and fintech companies coming together to address the dignity and the empowerment for the last mile through sachet-sized digital loan right when they need it so they can save the dignity and empower themselves.
Thank you, Sanjib. Sachetization. Okay, that's the word. So thank you very much, Sanjib. Lawrence and Rossana, I know you've taken a long travel from Uruguay to here. I appreciate your presence here. And thank you very much, audience, for your time and patience. I'm sure they've rubbed some insights on the subject to you. So thank you very much. And please make it to GFF tomorrow. Thank you very much. Yeah, sure.